You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. And be sure to smash that like button. Love it. Have the chance to do this every single Tuesday. Our friend Sean Salisbury jumps aboard with us. He's on Twitter at Sean Unfiltered 790 there in Houston. And it's one of the best sports talkers you'll find anywhere, especially when we talk offense and quarterback. Sean, it's always a pleasure, man. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. How are you? Thanks for having me on, Matty.
It's always our pleasure, man. Let's start with the LSU Bama game, if we could. I would love your thoughts, Sean, on Jaylen Milroe and the evolution so far that we've seen on him this season, because it feels like we're looking at a dramatically different player today than we were week 2 when Bama lost to Texas. Is that fair to say?
That's fair. I don't think he's – I mean, if you're an LSU fan and you're watching football, I think you're probably a little more spoiled with the way your guy spins it and throws it around. Now, make no mistake, the guy can throw it. But they're not going to win games where that's the lead. If it gets into a passing fancy, I don't think against a good team that, once in a while, I'm talking about on a regular sustaining where you got to be somewhat balanced, where there are a handful of guys in the country that can load up a team, throw it, and if their run game's not working, they can still stay in and win the game. He's a tremendous physical specimen. He's been well coached in high school and obviously is well coached at the next level. And he has started to get better. And I think, when you've taking over think about the last 3 quarterbacks that have been there. Well, for what? Tua, Hurts, Mac Jones. And now Bryce Young. It's pretty good. It's a pretty good group to follow. So the natural evolution of mentally for all of us that would be in that situation is those aren't size 10 shoes. Those are size 15. I got to fill them and to try to do it. And also, Nick went into this season a little bit different, thinking of like to get back a little bit to older school, run the ball, mix in the pass, run some play action, a little bit more stability, and play great defense. They're starting to creep around, meaning Alabama, where they're not quite going away. And Milroe's been a big reason. When they were going through 2 and 3 quarterbacks, he jumped back in, and he's been far more efficient. I think they're getting him, and Tommy Rees is getting him to the point now where there's a comfortability. And whenever it's a new coordinator, of course, I just don't think when you're talking about the pure part of it, if it's one of those games where they got to throw to win every down, it's a different ballgame. But Alabama usually doesn't have to do that. They know in the last handful of quarterbacks they've had the ability to do that. But he has transformed himself into a better, more accurate passer. But it looks to me, it's not the fact that he can't throw. It's the command, Matty, where you get to a point where when you know where to throw it and the timing's better, then the accuracy goes up and it looks less rigid. And he's a good player that has great skill set, and it may come down to the fact that if LSU's defense shows up, they may have to, but he's got 2 dimensions. He's a better runner than thrower, but the passing's definitely improved.
Sean, the giant story here this week are the defensive absences. Zy Alexander's your best cornerback. He's out probably for the year. Mekhi Wingo, who was an All-American defensive tackle a year ago, he hasn't really looked like himself this year, Sean. He's been playing hurt. He finally had surgery, and so he's on the shelf as well. When you have a defense, it's an awkward way to ask it, but when you have a defense that's been playing as poorly as LSU's has, they've been better the last 2 games, but we understand who they were playing. Is it that big of a deal when you subtract a couple of pieces from a defense that's playing badly?
No, it just the attrition comes in, and your backup becomes your starter, and your other guy becomes your backup. Now, there's 2 ways this could go, Matty. And it's happened in plenty of places where, and you hate to say it, but sometimes an injured guy leaves his glove on the mound, and somebody else comes out and picks it up because we finally see somebody who has elevated for whatever. And I don't want to see anybody hurt. Nobody does it. Unfortunate part of football. So you can discover somebody that wasn't playing all the time that now plays more, and they get reps, and it's like, maybe we got something here. So, yeah, anytime a defense hasn't been playing, if you subtract from it, the normal thought process, good or bad, is we just diminished the defense and now we're not as deep. But also, a lot of times attention to detail kicks in. Look at some of the time, like I'm just going to use Cousins, no offense on the injury, which sucked for him in the NFL, but Jefferson's out. Kirk Cousins is playing as well as any quarterback in the NFL before this injury. He really was, man. He goes out, so what's everybody else do? Elevates their play, including guys that had to come in. So with like KJ, I mean, they've had some Osborne, they've had some guys step up their game there. Here's the same way defensively. Now, it also may help you scheme-wise, and as a defensive play caller that you may have to play it a little different. You may have to give somebody help, and it may end up helping your defense and forcing them to do something different. So it can go, and we're going to find out because this is no joke. Alabama knows how to play, and they're physical, and this is a great rivalry, and it always brings out either the best or at times, depending on if you're choking on your own spit, the worst in a football player or team, depending on who you are. So we've seen both for all of us at some point in time. So I would think that, on the initial you think, well, they're not playing well, diminished, but then the thought process maybe from a distance is, or as a fan is like, you know what? Hell, if they're not playing well, let's find somebody else who can. And sometimes coaches even say that. Hey, man, if you're not playing well, then I was with the coach that was a great defensive line coach. He'd tell the guys, listen, man, the bus leaves at about 4 o'clock today. And unless you get better, you might be on it. And in a joking manner, but getting his point across. So, depth is the problem. But in this one, in truth, Maddie, we're not in August where it's going to be 100 degrees. And it's best on best. And sometimes you find something out about a backup that now becomes a starter if he wasn't a regular. So, and I guess the part that gives you a little bit of hope is this has not been the LSU defense that we expected. So the guys filling in, and it's another chance on a national stage now to say, we're tired of being embarrassed and we're tired of getting pushed around by good teams on the defensive side of the ball. This is where it stops. It's a chance to rear your head and bow your neck and find out what happens. It will be difficult, though, but you know what they're going to do. They're going to sell out to being physical and trying to stop the run, which sets up for play action, so you got to be alert for it. And Milroe can beat you on the edge as well with his legs.
Sean, I think the general belief here is the defense is going to give up yards and points because they've done that to everybody that's good offensively.
Yep.
But the LSU offense can score on anybody. So this will be the biggest defensive test since Florida State for this LSU offense. Right. Any reason to think this LSU offense won't continue doing what it's been doing all year?
Not for me, unless, of course, Matty, you're getting beat up on first down, and let's say somebody, Alabama goes and hangs 21 quick on you, right? And you're in the first quarter, and all of a sudden it takes you out of, and then they get to pin their ears back, and you, regardless of people say we're going to stay the course, none of us stay the course down 24 or 21 to nothing in the second quarter. We all change our mindset, even if the coach says we're going to run it, we're going to do what we do. You're going to put the ball in your best player's hand. That's the way. If I'm going down, I'm the best guy with 4 panels and 8 laces, meaning that football is Jayden Daniels is going to have the ball in his hand. I don't expect that to happen early in this, but yes. And if it would have stopped, Matty, you saying they're going to give up yards, I don't care. Denny Green we led the league, and we'd lead the league in defensive touchdowns and sacks. We'd get a few penalties. We may give up 500 yards, but I got news for you. We score 10. Our defense would get us about 10 points a game, set up a field goal, take it back. So he was willing to sacrifice now everybody's got ego, the statistic of yards to make you kick field goals in the red zone and to force turnovers. I think LSU's defense is going to need a couple of those, which will not only help their confidence, but maybe we even get a short field. But I like LSU's offense with the quarterback as good as either one of these teams. We know what LSU does. So can they win a shootout, or can they win even if they're giving up 30? Yeah, I do. I don't think this is the same. And Alabama hasn't seen a quarterback like this yet this year. So we can look at it that way too. Their defense is going to be tested. What you want to do is win on first down so that you're ahead of the sticks. Everybody talks third down. I'm never winning on third down, or at least most of the time if it's 3rd and 8. But I'll tell you what, if it's 2nd and 4 and 3rd and 3, now I get to dictate the tempo on offense. First down, keep an eye on how they do on first down. I'm big on first down in Alabama. And you know what? Continue to play fast. I don't care what happens in games like this, Matty, and I don't mean to belabor this, but is even at veteran coaches and players, you get into a mindset of let's just hang around, right? Let's just hang around. And then you're playing kind of passive aggressive, and it doesn't work. I watched the Texans do it against the the Carolina Panthers last week.
Yeah.
They kind of went in coming out of a bye week, passive aggressive. And if you allow a team that shouldn't beat you, and I'm not talking about Alabama, hang around in the fourth quarter, then it's a one possession. They can go steal a game from you. This is Alabama. We know what it brings out in LSU. So I'm going with what brung me. I'm going to attack. I'm going to play fast. I'm going to put the ball in my quarterback's hands, and it may be able to run it 35 times. You may have to throw it 48 times to beat Alabama. That's okay. And if you're LSU, I would be begging for a 7-on-7 game, because advantage LSU. You do not want to let Alabama do what they do. Play action, get a completion, boom, 3rd and 1, go over the top with one. Go for it when it's at your 40 on 4th down. Get another series. Limit their series, but I'm not going in scared. I'm just telling you, I'm not. I go in privately if I'm Brian Kelly in the offense thinking we may give up 40. You're not going to tell your team that. You're going to tell them, hell, if you give up 30, we're winning. Yeah. That's the way you want to go about it. So I would assume that I would let my offense know privately, and it does, attack, and that's the way we're attacking this as if all we can do is throw the football. That's how I'd attack this game.
Last week, you kind of intimated you thought LSU had a really good chance to win it. LSU's been a pretty popular pick publicly. The line's dropped to 3. Do you think LSU goes into Tuscaloosa and wins this game?
I think they can. I do. I think they can. If we come out, if you're sitting there, Matty, in the 3rd quarter, and we're watching this, which we will be, and you're sitting there saying they have not turned the ball over yet, meaning LSU, and Jayden's having a Jayden game, they're not going to be down by 17 points. This is going to be I believe it's a 4th quarter game. I don't think LSU is going to run Alabama roughshod and curb stomp them in their building. But I do. Listen, this day and age when you got a good quarterback that can handle that and has played a lot of games, been in a lot of venues, I don't much care that you're going to Tuscaloosa. Of course, you'd rather have a night game in Tiger Stadium, but sometimes away games, home cooking, you take the own pressure off yourself, because what's going to happen if you're in a home game, Matty, and you give up 3 touchdowns in the 1st quarter? You know what they're going to be doing? Booing defense. That's right. That's just how we do, right? And so it becomes you're almost playing against your own crowd. And I know that, I've been there, and I know you're there all the time. That's as good a place to go as there's in the country at LSU. But when you're on the road, sometimes it's different. You're like, you know what? You go score quickly, and Alabama's fans are starting to reel in. They're worried about the other stuff. And then, once again, Nick is doing something he doesn't want to do, throw on a regular basis. They'll try to stay the course. For me, it's got to be a disruption. I want LSU to go disrupt this game, meaning make Alabama uncomfortable doing what they don't want to do, and we know what that is. But the comfortability with the quarterback, when in doubt, when it's a pick-em type game for me, I personally always take the better quarterback. I've said that, and the better quarterback in this one right now is Jayden Daniels, and I think he's one of the 3 or 4 best in America right now.
Sean Salisbury's with us on Twitter at Sean Unfiltered, also the founder of Pro Sports Fans. Download the Pro Sports Fans app today. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.